going on YouTube? Welcome to another video. Joining me here for my back workout. Starting off with some barbell rows here. And like I mentioned in a previous video, I'm down to make some changes, but essentially the barbell row will become like the main mover for lats, at least to start the workout, and then we'll kind of taper down into more isolation stuff. But really just trying to find something that works consistently and gets a nice pump, which the consistent rowing has. I am going to start implementing the kind of the power hybrid rows, which I normally do for like my main compound to generate force and strength. And then do this after for, kind of the cherry on top of that contraction to get the rest of the workout started. The lats are a muscle group that, they're massive, generate lots of power, and you have to find a way to isolate them and get them to fire in a way that does not tax the rest of the body, and it can be very hard. So I found the constant tension, relatively moderate amount of reps done is a perfect way to kind of meet that balance of challenging weight and then also the reps and stuff too. So you'll kind of see here, when I do my isolation exercises, we're trying to find a happy balance. I don't want to go too heavy where we're, using too much momentum or whatever. Like the lats are very strong. If you're deadlifting, squatting, overhead pressing, any movement where the lats are working as a support muscle, you know how strong they are. So I hate barbell rows bent over. It's always been uncomfortable for me. And I've tried to find a way, but honestly, I've been experimenting and just working my way up just to kind of see what I could do. T-bar row was fine too, though. It's just like, if you see my torso and chest, just a very uncomfortable position to be in. And I more so prepare when I'm doing these to like really brace my core and like really push into it. And that's just been my experience with a lot of lat stuff. Like when you've got a bigger chest and a bigger stomach, you're kind of pushing yourself away from the platform that you're, generating that force from. Same thing with the lat pull down here. It's a issue with like mobility for me though. I have to find a wide enough grip where I can really engage the lats, but also not too wide where it's affecting the shoulder, and then I just feel a massive taper off of strength when doing the lat pull down. So these mag grips are great. They allow to put your grip at a more neutral position. If you do the typical lat pull down with like the straight bar, I just can't get that motion. When you're rowing, it's almost like a twist. You're almost doing like a supination to really engage the lats, and that's due to the curvature of the spine, due to the shoulders and everything in chest, and you really are trying to find a way to move that scapula, retract it. And it can be hard with these straight, the pull downs or whatever. So, been doing these cable pullovers, making my booty look ridiculous here, but I honestly feel the contraction all the way throughout the lats. And you do have to kind of lock in. So some tips here, you really want to, almost when you're benching, where you kind of retract the scapula and pull your shoulder blades together, do the same thing, and then attempt to pull with your elbows. Lock those elbows in so you're not getting a complete extension. And then just kind of go from there. And then you will feel like the fibers all the way down from where the lats attach up to like your shoulders to the lower back into the glutes. And it's quite a nice contraction. You automatically feel feedback on it. And again, happy medium, find a wide enough grip where you can do it, where it's not too narrow where you're impeded. Some people use the rope, kind of just use whatever works for you and try to figure it out there. Transitioning here into the lower body day. And we're in, the ideal rack, just all the angles if you need them. Working up on Hatfields, trying to stay upright and really trying to drive out of the hole, nice and controlled. That's usually the case here. If you dive bomb these, the only thing supporting that weight when you get to the heavier sets is your shoulder girdle. So if you collapse forward, the core gives out, that's going to roll forward, not a good position to be in. So you want to try to stand tall, but you've got the reinforcement of the pins. And like I said, similar to a belt squat, you've got something that allows you to anchor yourself and go down into position, get the contraction, and then out. And it's just like a nice way to overload on squats. You're able to kind of feel the weight of that. So as you get heavier into those heavier lifts, it's not forward. Putting 400 pounds on your back and squatting it normally, that's going to leave some impression. It's going to push you forward. But if you train with like a Hatfield, which allows you to go heavier than normal, you can practice that sitting back into it, reinforcing the rigidity of the spine, your core, And it's just a great way to prepare for those bigger and heavier lifts. Also get some stimulus without overloading, your CNS. So in the right manner, it can be used, pretty effectively. You just have to figure out where that works for you. So for me, with squatting the heavier weights, it's a mentally an intimidation thing, but also feeling that weight on your back and being like, holy crap, that's heavy. I'm finding that at least doing these heavy hat fields has allowed me to kind of drive through, that mental block, and then also condition my CNS to do what I need to do. So a little bit of a back view here. You can kind of really see me sit into it. I kind of break at the knees first and then drive back. You want to do both. If you sit all the way back and don't allow your knees to kind of come forward, you'll topple over. There's a happy medium where you want to break at the same time and try to find that balance, like depending on how far down that bar moves on your back versus like a high bar, low bar, you want to sit back proportionally. So with a high bar, you still want to sit a degree back, but not as far as a low bar. So just kind of find that happy medium where you feel nice and balanced, and it's going to take, training cycles and sessions and then reps to figure that out. And then once you dial it in, it will feel almost automatic, but it's interesting. Same thing with squats and like a SSB or a high bar, you're going to feel it pushing forward. So you do want to sit back to a degree though, but nowhere near as far, otherwise you're going to topple over. 420 sumo deadlifts here. Just further proof that sumo is easier than conventional. You saw how Struggle City they moved on the conventional day, and then they're just moving like butter on the sumo day. So I like sumo pulling. It's a good thing to have in your back pocket if you need to deadlift and maybe your lower back's tight and stressed from all the other training. And I really enjoy what it's done for the lower body. You can really just kind of lock in, get a lot of good hammy glutes. Even in quad development from here, you can kind of see everything that's happening in the back, and you're not really loading the spine as much. You're closer to the bar, better center of gravity and manipulation and stuff like that. So belt squat here, 550. I think this is the second time this week we're doing this weight. So during this point in training, I was alternating paused belt squat with the high rep stuff. So I think earlier in the week I did sets of 10, and then here I'm just doing 5 paused. And again, just for the sake of not destroying my entire body with the weight, but also keeping that same stimulus. So just changing the tempo of the lift is a good way to get some added development. With the high volume training, the more reps you do, there's a lot of, assuming you're recovering correctly, there could be a lot of risk for like tendon and ligament inflation, tendonitis. So monitor that and do things that allow you to get the stimulus you want. You can always alternate them. You can always take them out, go lighter with lighter weight though, but I really wanted to kind of keep that intensity high with the belt squat to be able to, come back the next week and then add more weight to it here. Unilateral single leg, well, that's just saying the same thing twice. Single leg curl here. And again, just trying to get some variety with the ham curls, otherwise it's monotonous work over and over again. And just trying to identify some weaknesses potentially in the lower body. You can do it with any other lift you do. That's kind of why we do the dumbbell bench and stuff like that too. So do lifts that kind of support your lifting. Take them out as needed. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. See you in the next one.
Thanks for watching the latest video. If you want to help support the channel, I actually own my own wet shaving and grooming e-commerce website where everything's handmade by me. It's www.apexsoaps.com, and you can get a 10% off code using wet shaver. We've got some cool scents here. We've got some Coca-Cola scents, a horchata scent, traditional barbershop, just some really cool stuff. And you can purchase samples or you can buy the whole set. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out via email. Be quick to respond. Thanks for watching.